Welcome back to the podcast. I'm Lindsay Henneke, your host, sober coach, and creator of Feel Good Alcohol Free, a 13-week group program where I help women quit drinking for good and learn how to create a life that they love so much they wouldn't want to ruin it with a hangover. I am especially excited for the episode today because first, it's our 20th episode, and it's the last episode of season 1 of Feel Good Alcohol Free. So, just a heads up, we're taking a little 2-week break, but don't worry, we'll be back in a couple of weeks with fresh topics, more episodes coming at you every single week. We're just taking a little hiatus. Today's episode is so special. I'm very excited for you to listen to the conversation I had with Rebecca Weller. As you know, Rebecca is somebody that I talk about a lot. She is the author of a book called The Happier Hour, which was the very first book that I ever read in my sober curious journey. Her influence on my journey was massive, and I am honored and so incredibly excited to share this episode and that she was willing to come on the podcast. I did try to, not have a ton of starstruck moments, but there was a little bit of that. She's an author and speaker. She was named one of Perth's leading healthpreneurs by the Sunday Times magazine. Rebecca has helped women from around the world to get their sparkle back and create an alcohol-free life that they love. She is the author of international bestseller, A Happier Hour, plus Up All Day, and Chameleon, Confessions of a Former People Pleaser. Rebecca writes about love, life, and the strength and potential of the human spirit. Okay, without another moment, I'm going to share the episode with you. Welcome, Rebecca Weller, to the podcast. I am so excited to have you here.
Thank you so much for having me, Lindsay. It's such an honor to be here.
You were such I would say, the primary influence in my journey. And I really believe that it's about finding maybe even just one person that you connect with when it comes to whatever you're trying to achieve. But for me, in that moment, I could not even fathom that there were women who were quitting drinking because it was so far from where I was at when I first came across your book, A Happier Hour. And every single page, all I could think is, this is me. And how can I become her? For me, shame really dies when stories are told, and you being so open with yours just made me think, like, there's got to be a way that I can do this too. Our stories are just so powerful, and I would really love to ask you to give us a snapshot of who you are. I would love for them to get to know you, where you started this work, and where you are today. I would love to go there.
Absolutely. So just as a little bit of background, like so many, I'm sure, of your listeners, your readers, that so many of us, I started off my drinking journey when I was a teenager because I was very shy and introverted, and alcohol made me feel like I was outgoing and boisterous and all those things that I really longed to be. I think when we find ourselves falling into a pattern where alcohol acts as a crutch, and for me it was that social crutch, but also I was so shy in the regular world as well. So it really I thought it bolstered my confidence in the beginning. That's why we fall into the trap, right? In my early 20s, I went to live in London for 3 years, and I worked in investment banking, and there was a lot of drinking. And from there, I went to live in Sydney for a few years, and there was a lot of drinking. We tend to gravitate towards these situations that allow us to drink even more. And after Sydney, I came back to Perth, Western Australia, which is where I'm from, and worked in another company that also had a big drinking culture, like a lot of functions, a lot of team building activities that involved a lot of alcohol, and also with my friendship groups. And I got to the age of 39, and I was looking down the barrel of that milestone birthday, and suddenly all this drinking and having blackouts and finding myself in embarrassing situations and saying things I regretted and writing things on Facebook in the middle of the night, all of these things were just, it didn't feel so cute anymore, right? You can sort of laugh it off in your 20s, but like I was supposed to be a grown woman now, I'm like 39, like get your act together, girl. And so I was also in a new relationship and with my now husband, but he really didn't care for drinking that much. He thought it was a bit of a waste of time and a bit stupid. And so for me to act in this way in front of him was causing a lot of conflict. And then I had also, like, this is so funny to think back on, but I'd started to fall in love with nutrition and, a healthy lifestyle and self-care, while also telling myself that the drinking was okay. Like drinking, I deal with stress with drinking. I deal with social anxiety with drinking. I deal with, big emotional swings with drinking. That's okay. But I also want to be super healthy and feed my body nutritious food. Like it didn't add up, but I somehow justified it. And the more I got into this sort of nutrition and I started studying more of it, and I started a little food blog and really having fun with it, because my career is as a cost engineer. And so it's very analytical, it's very high pressured. And so to have this fun little creative outlet and start blogging about it, it was really fun. And I, got so into it that one day I decided, what if I became a health coach? What if I like left my corporate career and went off and did this entirely new and different thing? And so I did. I launched myself into that, took all of my life savings to put behind me. My husband also got on board with the idea, and he put all of his life savings in, and he left his career as well. So both of us jumped headfirst into this new direction. And we, the funny thing about like launching a business of your own is that there's so many things that people don't tell you about, and you have to do things for the first time, and it's so scary, and there's so much personal development involved because you have to really face your fears and get over any self-doubts, or at least try to manage your self-doubts. And I lent on alcohol a lot more during that. So I went from sort of social drinking to then kind of drinking on the couch at night to be like, oh my gosh, today was full on. And now what am I going to do tomorrow? Like, how are we going to build this business? We kept going, and I started to get a couple of health coaching clients, and I was helping them with food and self-care, but not the alcohol part. And I remember sitting in a Skype call with one of my beautiful clients, and she said, sometimes when I feel lonely, I drink more. And I said, well, that's okay. And I just was horrified at the minute I said it, because I thought, it's that cognitive dissonance, and you suddenly realize, oh, what did you just say? Like, it's not okay to deal with emotions with alcohol. Like, you need to get yourself organized so that you can then help others. And that's what led me to start a little experiment. And I didn't believe that I could go alcohol free. Like, I was deeply entrenched in the drinking lifestyle. All of my friends drank a lot. All of my colleagues drank a lot. My family, like, I didn't know anyone that wasn't drinking and was happy about it. I only knew the stories about people who were white knuckling it, right?
Same. And I was 39 when I read your book.
Oh my gosh, there's something about that age, right?
I read your book exactly 1 month before my 40th birthday. And
Oh my gosh. And I think that milestone birthday helps to put the pressure on, to make you think, what am I doing? Where is my life going?
yes, for sure. For sure. So you were just noticing, because of the work you started doing, that you're like, I cannot instruct clients that this is okay.
Exactly. And I was helping them with so many other methods of self-care. This is the biggest one, like the drinking, like the amount of time that it takes out of your life as well. Like, not just the actual drinking where time speeds up, but then the hangovers and the remorse, like the shame and the remorse and getting stuck in that cycle. It takes up so much energy, so much head space, so much heart space. I think back now and I just think, oh my gosh, it was such an exhausting way to live. But at the time, I thought it was the only way. And as I started down this sort of experiment of like, let me just try and see, can I go 30 days without alcohol? And I started reading these blogs of these powerful women that were writing, and they were all anonymous at that time, because this was, I mean, quite a while ago now. It's what, 11 years ago now. And so there wasn't this big sobriety movement. It was very, very behind closed doors and very quiet. And the only video that I ever saw was a woman who was doing a TED talk, and she talked about how when she was honest about her relationship with alcohol, and she was a university professor, she didn't receive any jobs after that. So all of her career options closed up as a result of opening up. And that terrified me, because I thought, what if this new direction of being a health coach doesn't work out? And I was in the very, very early days, and I need to go back to the corporate world, but then no one wants to hire me because I've been honest about this alcohol issue. And so, I really worried about that. But as I kept writing my blog, and my husband was very supportive of, like, okay, now can you do 60 days? And I really wanted to. And I'd read these blogs of these women that had done 100 days. And that seemed like such a cool amount of time to me, because I was like, it's this nice round number. It sounds really good. What could I find out about myself in those 3 months? And what could I potentially share with others? And as I went through 30 days, and I thought, I feel really good. Like, let me try 60. I tried 60, and I was like, this feels amazing. Like, I really want to try to 100. And as I got to that 3-month mark, my husband kept saying, why don't you share this on your blog? Like, why don't you share your journey? Because other women will be interested too. And I was still stuck in that fear mode. And so I kept saying, no, like, no one really cares. Like, this was just an experiment just for me. I don't know if I'm going to stay on this path. Like, I don't know. And he was like, come on, like, you've shared everything else about your food journey, like everything else, like, come on, don't be a coward. And so I was like, okay, I'll do it. And I started. And when I wrote that first blog post, Lindsay, I was terrified. I was shaking. I hit post. And then, when you hit something and it's such vulnerability, that I just sat there sort of trembling for a while and thinking, I can delete it before anyone sees it. Like, I can still delete it. And thankfully, like, within seconds, because I sent it out as a newsletter straight away, and within seconds, it felt like, which was probably a couple of minutes for someone to read it, but I started getting these messages back saying, oh my God, that just felt like reading my own diary. Like, thank you so much for saying it. And it was because of those incredible women that wrote back that gave me confidence to keep going forward and to keep sharing, because if I hadn't have got any feedback, I might have just gone back into my shell and thought, no, this is too scary to share. But as soon as I knew it was connecting with women and it was making meaningful change, like really helping them to know they weren't alone, like I felt so alone, that's what kept me going down the path that eventually led to creating a sobriety course, a book, and then subsequent books, was just because I kept getting that feedback, which was so meaningful.
Yes, because shame dies when we share our stories. The moment somebody else says, me too, it's like, we feel better.
Oh my gosh, 1,000% we do. Like, it's that connection, it's that human connection. And there's that saying that secrets keep us sick. And I really think that shame keeps us sick as well, because I always thought that in the social situations, alcohol made me connect with people because I was more outgoing. However, in the aftermath, the next day, I would be embarrassed about something that I said or did. And so I would then avoid that group of friends. And then I would move on to a different group of friends for a while and hope that first set just forgot about it.
I can 100% relate to doing that. To cool off from that click for a little while, because I definitely said some things, and maybe I can find some new friends in this corner to hang out with for the next 6 months.
Exactly. So then you're not really connecting, because you're moving away, like towards people and away from people, towards people and away from people. And that's something that I found in sobriety was wow, my relationships deepened so much, because you can have that trust and intimacy because you're not constantly running away.
So true. And that's one of the things that the women that I work with, they're afraid of that. They're afraid that they're going to lose their friends. And there's no other way to say it than that's not going to happen.
Exactly. Or you create connections with others that you didn't think you would. Like I found that so much. Like there were friends that barely drank in my outer circles, and I didn't hang out with them when I was drinking because I thought they were boring. I thought, oh no, they don't drink, so why would I hang out with them? What I didn't realize was that I was the boring one doing the same thing over and over again. And so when I stopped drinking, I started forging relationships, like deeper relationships with them. And I was like, this is amazing. And we started doing things like going for walks around the river or going for smoothie dates rather than sitting in bars. And that just added so much depth and meaning to my relationships and my life that I never would have discovered if I had have been afraid to try something different.
Yes, yes. It's true enrichment. And just,
Mm.
it feels so much better.
It really does. And there was often as well, like some friends that I did hang out with when I was drinking a lot, they weren't particularly nice people. Sometimes they would say things while we were drinking, and probably I did too, because you can be quite rude when you're drinking, like you have no filter. And the next day, things that they said would bother me as well. And when you start forging these deeper trusting relationships, then you walk away feeling truly like uplifted and like you had a really good connection. You can be completely yourself and there's no backhanded comments or there's nothing. I think when we go into sobriety as well, we become a little bit of like truth seekers. And so now I say to my friends, like, if you ever have an issue with me, like, let's talk about it. I want to know. Don't there's no passive aggressive stuff here. Like, let's be open and let's have a chat about it because I want to be better.
Yes, exactly. We all want to be better. The women that I'm sure that you have worked with and the women that I work with, they have been living with this deep shame around their drinking. They have been successful in advancing their careers, building families, hitting all of the milestones that society tells us means that we're doing all the right things. But the loneliness and the hiding and the maneuvering around to balance all of the spinning plates while also trying to control this relationship with alcohol, it can lead us to that shame. And so they're thinking like, why can't I figure this out? And then feeling lousy about the fact that they can't figure it out. That was also my experience. But when I read your book, I realized this wasn't just a me problem. And I started to really believe that I didn't have to drink because of you. And it's like what I try to instill is that there are paths forward, even though you can't see it. Like you couldn't see it in your journey and I couldn't see it in mine. And so I'm wondering if you would talk a little bit about how you overcame your feelings of shame.
Especially in early sobriety, and anyone who even starts down the path, like, you are so brave. It takes so much courage. There is such a better life for you on the other side, but those early days are rough. And part of the reason they're so challenging is because I felt this avalanche of shame, and I think so many of us do, of as you stop drinking and you become a better person every day and you start to grow emotionally and become more emotionally mature every day, you look back on your behavior in the past and you just do a number on yourself where you're like, how could I have done that? That was so stupid. That was so embarrassing. Oh my gosh, I'm mortified that I ever acted like that. And that can drive us back to the drink. Like that shame and feeling bad about ourselves can drive us straight back there. And so the biggest thing that I did in those moments was just to say, you're not that person anymore. Like you're choosing something better. You can't change what's happened in the past. You can apologize for, anyone that you hurt or things that you did, and that's so healing. But you also need to forgive yourself and say, I did then, like, what's that Maya Angelou quote about? I did then what I knew how to do, and now that I know better, I do better. That of like each day I'm learning more, and I forgive myself for what I did in the past. And also thinking about it, like if your best friend or your sister came to you and said, I'm so mortified by these things that I did. Like, I feel so bad about myself. I'm full of shame and regret and remorse. You would say to her, that's in the past. Like, you are changing every day. You're taking a new path. You're learning from those mistakes. And now it's time for you to let go of that baggage and move on. And that sort of self-coaching and talking to yourself the way that you would to your bestie, like that's so healing as well, because we are the only person that we spend 24/7 with. If we can't be kind to ourselves, then what are we even doing? Like, it's up to us to heal ourselves, because that's the monologue we're hearing all day long. We're with ourselves constantly. Anywhere you go, there you are.
Big takeaway in this episode. Like, yes, we are with ourselves 24/7. You've got to be nice to yourself.
That's right. You've got to like treat yourself like you're your own bestie and just say to yourself, okay, honey, that was bad behavior. We understand that now, but you're not doing that now. You're different now. Like that was, and also that was tied to drinking. Like you can look back and say, did I behave that way when I wasn't drinking and wasn't hungover? No. Well, then that's not you. That was the alcohol. And so that helps to make it a little bit easier to let go of that shame and that guilt, because you're like, okay, that was caused by the alcohol, and without the alcohol, that's not who I am.
Yes, I love that. I'm taking that with me. It's very wise words right there. So you were one of the first women to actually write a memoir about their experience with alcohol. What led you to want to share your own story with the world? Because you had done it on the blog. What made you want to turn this into a book?
Yeah. So I'd shared my story in the blog, and that was 2014. And then I think it was later that year that I created Sexy Sobriety, which was an online program where I would help women with the nutrition and the self-care and the alcohol part. And that was going really well. And we had a lot of members, and my husband has a background in tech, which is very handy. And so we built this platform, and the members in them, we would host coaching calls, and I would talk them through their biggest fears, their biggest challenges. And in those calls, the members often said, but you weren't like this on day 45, or you weren't like this on day 20. And I was like, I promise you I was. I 1,000% promise you I was. And so it was because of them that I started to think, why don't I share a book where I talk about my first 90 days, because the most challenging part and all the lessons that I would want to tell anyone that embarks on that path. So that's what I did. And I was scared again, because I thought a blog post is one thing, but a book is a bigger thing. And, once again, all those fears came up of like, but what if I need to go back to the corporate world and this book is out there, and, that ruins any chances that I have. Like, what about my future? And I just thought helping these women is more important. Like, I really felt that sort of by now, once I was helping them with this program, that I put it out there. And the way that I did it as well was I tricked myself, Lindsay. I would tell myself, you know what if only the members in the program read it? Like, that's probably all that will ever read it. And I never imagined, like, when we put it out there, and the members in the program started reading it, and then they started sharing it, and then it kept growing and growing and growing, and now has sold over 100,000 copies worldwide, which just blows my mind. And the amount of response that we had from that, it just made me think, you know what, like if my biggest fears come true, and I don't have a future in a career, like at least I served my purpose in this lifetime, because there were so many letters that came through, and emails and messages saying, this really helped me. This really changed the path that I was on. And that made it so worthwhile.
Yes, yes. And I mean, it's 100,000 copies. That's a huge success.
Yeah, it's unimaginable. Like, I try to imagine 100,000 people. Like, my friend keeps saying, that's this stadium size, or that's this. She's a crack up. But, it's hard to imagine. And it took me on a new journey as well, where things grew, and once again, I had to like overcome self-doubts and feel more comfortable sharing my story, going on stage and sharing it. And it really challenged me to step it up and help more people.
Yes. This overcoming self-doubt and, sometimes we hear it as imposter syndrome. When you are trying to do anything that is different than how you currently live, there is going to be self-doubt. And this is something that I try to share with my audience because it's the ambiguity. We're afraid. What if it doesn't go the way I want? And if
Mhm.
we would not have accomplished anything in our lives if we let self-doubt get in the way. And I mean, we're pretty capable people over here. So I am always just thinking self-doubt is, again, back to the way you talk to yourself and be your bestie. It's like we have to move through that. And it's because only good things are on the other side. If you're doubting yourself, it probably means that it's worth doing.
Exactly. And when it comes to alcohol, there was so many times that I thought, you know what, it's like to drink. You've been drinking for decades. You know what that life is like, but you don't know what sobriety is like. And that's exciting too. If you think about it, like we are all going to die someday. I mean, it's very morbid to say, but it helps to think that you're here for one precious lifetime. How many adventures can you have? And that doesn't mean just like travel or like doing new things in the world, but also doing new things within your life. And so if you've always been drinking, if you think about it, it's like, well, that's pretty boring. Let's try something different. And the same thing was like with writing the book. I was like, well, you know what it's like to not share your story. Let's see what it's like to share your story. It can just help to reframe things and make you feel a little bit braver.
Yes, exactly. Like let's see what it's like to do that. I mean,
Yes.
it sounds so casual when you say it like that. Like it's not that big of a deal. Just do it.
That's how you kind of fool yourself, right? Because do you ever do that trick where you tell yourself, "Oh, I'm going to go like you don't want to go to the gym," and so, but then you tell yourself, "I'll just go for 10 minutes." And once you're there and you do the 10 minutes, like you end up staying for an hour or 40 minutes or whatever. But it's that tricking yourself. So it's that kind of like method, I think, of telling yourself, "But let's find out what this is like. Come on, let's do it."
So, along with self-doubt, it means that we have to be a little vulnerable usually. What advice would you give to someone who wants to lean into being vulnerable but is afraid to take that step?
You know who you can be open and honest with, or you suspect who you can be. And so when you're practicing your vulnerability, choose those people first, those people that will protect your heart and be kind to you. And that will make you feel a little bit braver so that every time you open up a little bit more, you've had that experience of someone that held space for you, that was kind and supportive, and that will just help you to do it a little bit more and a little bit more, because it's a kind of a muscle. And I know sometimes in the past when I have been too vulnerable, in the early days with someone I didn't know, afterwards I had what Brene Brown calls a vulnerability hangover, where I would feel just really icky all day, like, oh, I gave too much of myself to that person that I didn't even know. So I'd say, like, start small, start with your trusted inner circle.
Yes, yes. The first person that I really opened up to was my husband. And it was because of your book, the way that you really brought Dom along for the ride with you in your journey, that was an awakening for me because I knew that I didn't care if my husband still drank, but I knew that he needed to know what was really going on in my mind when it came to my relationship with alcohol. Like I wasn't just waking up one day saying I have a really bad hangover and I'm never drinking again. Like it was different. And you did that with your husband, who I know he wasn't your husband at the time, but that was what I saw
Mhm.
anyway when I read your book.
Oh, I love that, because then they can be your cheerleader. If they don't know what's happening inside your own mind, then it's hard for them to understand. And whether it's, your partner or your friends and family, if you are vulnerable with them, it often can help them to be more supportive, because then they have empathy. They understand where you're coming from. That's not just like, oh, I don't know what's going on with Lindsay. She doesn't want to drink anymore. She's not fun. No, it's like she really has these concerns. She really is feeling this way. And that can help them to be your biggest cheerleaders as well.
What surprised you the most about the response to your book? Because when we talk about self-doubt and we have like no idea, what was the biggest surprise? The 100,000?
Definitely. Oh my gosh, definitely. And the way that it resonated with so many others. Like so many women wrote and said, it's not my exact life, but it felt like exactly my story. And so, the fact that I thought I was alone for so long in the way that I was feeling, to then 100,000 women saying they felt the same way. Like that was the biggest shock of, I thought it was just me.
Yes, totally validating and therapeutic, probably.
Yeah, and realizing that we're not alone, and that's so helpful and healing as well.
Yes. Okay, so I want to jump around a little bit to your more recent book that's been out for a while, Chameleon, People Pleasing. And how did you know that you were a people pleaser?
I think I always knew. I think because I constantly, what I realized, and you get so much clarity in sobriety. Like people would say that and I didn't understand what they meant, but once you've done that 100 days, you will understand. And I started to see, you know what? Social anxiety, when I go to something, I'm so busy wondering, what will people think of me? Will they like me? Like how will I fit in? And what if I say the wrong thing? Like so much time focused on their point of view. And I never stopped to think, what's my point of view? Like, do I like these people or am I having a good time? That never crossed my mind. It was always other person's view. And, my husband, Dom, he often said to me, it's like you seek permission from people before you do something, or you wait for you put everyone else's preference ahead of your own. And the more I thought about this, I thought the more I do that, I give my power away. I never sort of stand in my truth and say, oh, this is what my preference is. I'm too busy trying to make everyone else happy and put myself last. And there's a beauty in bringing community together and listening to other people's ideas, but there's also this part where you lose yourself. And I'd lost myself for so long in drinking that I didn't want to do that anymore. I wanted to be like kind and compassionate and open-hearted, while also protecting my own energy and not getting pulled into other people's drama or making it that they had to grant me permission to do things. I wanted to say, listen, honey, I appreciate that you want to do that. It's not my jam this week, but how about we do this instead? Like I wanted to get to that mature place of advocating for myself. And that journey that happened in sobriety as well was what led me to write the book Chameleon, because I thought there's probably so many other women that are also experiencing this.
100%. It's probably one of the top 3 things that I talk with my clients about is the people pleasing and saying yes only when it aligns with our goals. No means no.
Yes. Otherwise, that you start to feel resentful, and I would definitely do that. I would say yes, and then I would feel resentful of like, oh, why did they force me to say yes? And it's like, they didn't, though. You said you just feel like they did. They didn't. And so the more you can be honest, then the more you will feel like you've got your own back. And that's so important. Like, I guess coming back to that point about being your own bestie.
Yes. No, they didn't tell you to say yes.
Yeah, exactly. They didn't force you into it. You just think they did.
So that you could be mad at them.
Yes, that's right.
Oh, do you have one strategy that you used that helped you become a former people pleaser?
Let's see, gosh, really self-coaching myself. So again, that self-talk of, okay, like let's approach this and not get railroaded, because I had some big personalities in my social circles, and when I stopped drinking, I rediscovered that introverted side of myself. I would let them steamroll the situation and choose things. And I thought, you can still be soft and gentle. You can still be open hearted and just say to them, look, I totally appreciate where you're coming from. That situation or that event is not going to work for me this time, but I still really want to see you. Like, I love you. I miss you. Let's do something else together. So I guess the biggest thing was my communication, because I wasn't very good at that at all.
Yes, forming the delivery of
Yes.
so yeah, because we don't want to sound like a jerk, but then we don't want to keep justifying our reason of why. Like, we don't need to.
No, exactly. And also like understanding where the other person's coming from. And I use that example of like a friend or a family member would say, you need to come to this event because it happens so often. And I would say, oh, okay, then I'll be there. And then I would feel resentful and I would want to drink more because I would think, well, I don't even want to go to that event in the first place because I know it's a big drinking event, but now I feel forced into it and now I feel resentful and now like I'm angry at myself, I'm angry at the other person. It was just such a mess. But being more honest and thinking, okay, if the other person is trying to force you to go to an event, it's probably like they're coming from a point of view of they want to see you. Okay, so if that's what they want and that's what I want to see the person too. I just don't want to go to that event. Okay, how can I approach that? How can I get better at my communication and say, like that event's not going to be my jam, but let's do this together instead.
Yes, genius. Rebecca. So, okay. This is such a problem because I could talk to you forever.
I know, right? This is so fun.
Okay, just a couple more things then. So, everyone is on a different stage of their journey. Some of the women who are listening, they're sober curious. Many are in early days of sobriety, and others are like, okay, I've got this. I'm not drinking anymore, and I'm feeling really good. But now they're looking for what's next. I would love to hear your thoughts on embracing sobriety as a way to help us level up and reach our full potential. What was that experience like for you?
Oh my gosh, the amount of time that opens up in sobriety, that shocked me because, I would go to a bar for 10 hours and it would just fly by and it felt like nothing. And then the next day I would spend in bed with a hangover and that would be the whole day. So when I stopped drinking, I was like, oh my gosh, time is slow. Time is so slow. But then I realized, oh my gosh, this is amazing. I get to do so many more things. So I would say like the coolest thing about sobriety is the amount of experience it allows you to have, like new experiences. So really focus on what you can gain out of it, like what sobriety can open up for you rather than what you're, in the early days, I thought I was still missing out on these drinking activities. I thought I was missing out on drinking. Why does everyone else get to drink and I don't? And once I focused more on what I could do instead, it opened up a whole new world for me. It got me excited about here's the cool things that I get to do because I'm not hungover. I get to go to, I could go to early morning yoga classes, or I could meet a friend for a smoothie, or I could go for a swim at the beach. I could, do all these things and I would make a list of, okay, what I'm going to do on the weekend. And I'm going to have some fun doing this and try these new things. I went to like acrobatic yoga where we hung upside down and I started riding a bike again. I really had a lot of fun with it. And I remember in early sobriety, I read one of Gabby Bernstein's books and she talked about when she was in early sobriety and her and her friends went out on a Saturday night and they went roller skating and got ice cream. And I just thought, oh my God, that's so adorable. Like just that sort of idea of something so wholesome and simple being fun, like rediscovering fun again, like simple fun. That just blew my mind as well of like, oh my gosh, let's try that, let's go. And so sometimes I would go to the cinema first thing in the morning on a Sunday, which was so fun because there's no one else there, and just do really kooky things and just have fun with it.
I love that so much. Like, let's not mistake boredom with just having more time.
Exactly. And what are you going to do with that time? It's a precious gift. Once you get the hang of it, you're like, oh my God, this is great. I can do new hobbies. I can try new things. Like it's such a gift.
Yes, it is. It's like you're giving yourself time. Sometimes it might be hard to sit with that time, but start exploring. Speaking of, I love your use of the word sparkle in the work that you've done. So, because alcohol really does dim us. So, but when we do this work, that sparkle does start to return.
Yes.
How did sobriety help you get your sparkle back?
Because when we're stuck in that cycle of feeling shame and remorse, like that dulls it. It dulls everything. Like, not only does alcohol sort of dull the edges so we don't feel the lowest lows and we don't feel the highest highs, it keeps us a little bit numb, but also in the aftermath, in the hangovers, we're not our best selves. And it maybe even the days afterwards, when I was avoiding friendship groups, I definitely wasn't my best self. I thought alcohol would make me feel carefree. That's what I loved about it. And what I realized was sobriety makes you feel carefree. There's no regret, there's no shame, there's no remorse, there's no hiding. You're just like, I'm just living my life and having fun. That freedom is just, it gives you your sparkle back. It lets you become your real personality, your full personality. It lets you enjoy life without all these other, issues clouding your judgment or clouding your ability to look forward and be optimistic. And it also helps you can become better at things because you have more time to practice. Like, if there's any hobbies or sports or interests that you want to do, like, you can get better at them. And that fulfillment, a feeling of fulfillment, comes from trying new things and getting better at them. That makes life worthwhile, and that makes you feel more sparkly.
It is, oh my gosh, it is so true. And everything you just described helps diminish self-doubt.
Exactly. Yes.
I feel like that's the real theme of the conversation because we're so scared to try the new things and to do the new experiences because nobody really likes ambiguity. Even when we say, oh, yeah, I'm fine if I don't know what's going on. No, nobody really likes it.
Once had a beautiful client. She said that she was at a family getaway and they had this big trampoline and she was out there jumping on the trampoline. And then her father said, oh, you trying to be a kid again or something? And, such a like sort of diminishing comment. And she was so heartbroken from it. And I said to her, great that you're trying to be a kid again. Like, let's enjoy that joy. Like, let's bring that joy and play and just silliness back, because it's so missing when we're adults. There's so much seriousness and responsibility, and that can drive us to drink as well. Like, you want that fun, you want that playful energy. So, keep going, keep bouncing on that trampoline, girl.
Okay, my final question is, what advice would you have for women out there that are looking to feel a bit of sparkle in their life right now?
I think try something new. That's definitely it, right? Because life can get very plain and boring very quickly if we don't take control. So I think go have a little brainstorm, pick one thing, put it in your calendar and go. Like, I would book the tickets for something during the week, and then have that to look forward to, and something that takes you out of your comfort zone, because the more you do it, the more you are like, wow, this life is amazing and sobriety gives me this life. So that's the key. I'm a big advocate for making it fun, no matter what change we want to make in our lives, because I think we don't stick with it unless it's fun, or at least I don't. And so make it fun.
Yes, that 100%. Because if you don't have anything to look forward to, you have nothing to get you off the couch or out of the kitchen and like where the wine is or whatever it is that you drink. And we have to break the pattern. We have to do something fun and exciting and different. It has been my absolute honor and joy and so much fun for me to get to sit down with you today. And thank you so much for joining us.
It's my absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for having me.
If people want to find you, they can find you at Bex Weller, but you're not super active right now. So let's actually close out a little bit with that.
Yeah. So 2 years ago, I started to experience a lot of burnout. And we'd been running our own business for 10 years, and it was such an incredible journey. But I was tired, extremely tired. And I found it hard to have the passion to keep going, because running a business, it's not just the fun stuff of writing books and putting blog posts out and stuff like that, the stuff that I really enjoyed. It's also everything else. So you got to do finance and legal, and there's just so much that is in keeping an entity going. And it can be very tiring if you're the face of the company and you also need to do all of these background things, the CEO. And so I started to feel like I needed a change, and I started to think about returning to the corporate world, which was very scary and so bizarre to start to think about. And the more I thought about it, the more I thought, it makes sense, at least for a little while. And so 2 years ago, I went back and I rejoined the corporate world, which was extremely difficult, especially because I'd spent 10 years talking about sobriety and helping other women with that. And that helped me in my sobriety as well, of course, because it kept me on the path of reminding myself every day why sobriety was a good idea. So to go back into a large corporation, and the very first week I started, as luck would have it, there was a sundowner where it was sort of compulsory to go to a bar, very loud bar, and be there for a couple of hours. And it was all very challenging, because suddenly I was in this new environment that I hadn't been in for a very long time, and everyone's drinking around me. And it reminded me of how challenging those early days are. So for anyone in those early few months, keep going. It gets so much better, but those first few months and stuff are exhausting. And also, in being back in the corporate world, I had to tell people I didn't drink as well. And so, that then you get questions of like, well, why not? Why aren't you just fitting in with everyone? Why don't you want to go to all these drinking events? So I completely understand, and I'm reminded of how challenging those first few months are, but there's also so much to gain. And being back there as well, I have different stresses, and I was reminded of how often I would drink, especially at month end reporting time. And so now thinking about those other self-care methods, and part of that is you can get some amazing all natural stress relieving drinks now, with like chamomile and those kinds of things in there that are really calming. And quite often I feel like that just does the trick. You just want that feeling when you get home. So it's reminding myself of like all these self-care things, and seeing where this little journey takes me, and how that eventually brings me back into the creative world, or not. The jury's still out.
Oh, well, you're having fun. That's what it's like.
New experiences, exactly.
Yeah. Well, I will be linking all 3 of your books in the show notes, because they changed my life, and I know that they will be changing others for many, many years to come, because the impact that you've had on the world has just been, it makes me a little emotional. You've had such a major impact on the world and my life, and it's just been such an honor to be able to talk with you today. I really appreciate you coming on.
Oh, Lindsay, thank you so much. That makes me a bit emotional. Like, that's so moving to hear that. Thank you so much. And it's been such a pleasure talking with you. I love what you're doing, your work in the world, and how you're helping women. I think you will never understand how many women you are helping that don't reach out and tell you. So I'm so proud of you. So in awe of you. I'm so glad that you're doing your work in the world.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you so much. That's it for me this week, and I hope that you enjoyed this episode with Rebecca as much as I enjoyed creating it. If you want to find Rebecca, she is going to be linked in the show notes on her Instagram at Bexweller, and I've also created a list for you to check out her books, and those are also linked in the show notes. I will be seeing you in just a couple of weeks when we come back with season 2 of Feel Good Alcohol Free. In the meantime, I would love it and be honored if you would rate the podcast and leave a comment. Let us know what you think and share it. This helps women find it who are looking for support, and it really means the world to me that you're here listening. Okay, have a wonderful day, and wherever you're at in your journey, I believe in you.